Ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing out there on this dark and dreary January Thursday? It's been a while since we've seen each other, so glad to be back on your devices, real and live streaming, whether you're watching on your phone or your iPad or perhaps your television on the big screen. We are honored if you are joining us. After a little bit of like a time away, as the Steelers have also taken some time away from playing football apparently in December. We are back and better or worse than ever. I'm not really sure which one yet. You tell me in about 90 minutes. And joining me, as always, are my co-pilots on this crazy show, Mr. Steel Flyers and Mr. Gage Ryan Video. How you doing, friends?
Just great. I'll tell you what, though, Steve, I can't imagine that we could have expected anything else from this year. We got our winning record. We got our first-round exit. We got our defense that kind of is 50-50. It seems like a pretty average season to me at this point.
It's exactly average. It is exactly...
All right, we're done, thanks.
All right, see you later. Bye. We don't know who the quarterback is. The defense is kind of good. TJ Watt's another year older. Tell me about it. I'm with you. This one I find very disconcerting. We'll get into this more and more, but Steel Flyers, want to hear from you. What's up, friend? How you doing?
Oh man, I'll tell you what. I've been waiting now for the unleashing of HE double hockey stick here that Mr. Tomlin has so said that he was gonna do, and I'm still waiting.
We've been waiting for
grayer and older now. Thanks, one more year older. And Mike, we still ain't there yet, Mike.
Yeah, it's getting old. It's getting old. And even as like somebody who I think has oftentimes been the biggest Tomlin supporter in the group, right? I think that would be fair to say.
Definitely.
Even last year, remember when I did that roast where I just cooked the Steelers after that terrible 3-game, and everybody contributed to that. That was such a fun video. But even back then, I pointed out the sort of Andy Reid situation where, a breakup doesn't always mean it's you hate each other and you wish them dead. It's sometimes... in sports, I think you reach a natural conclusion point of relationships, and sometimes it can be better for both. And that's a situation where you look at what happened with the Eagles and you look at what happened with the Chiefs and Andy Reid, and you say it kind of worked out for everybody. And I'm just kind of wondering if the writing isn't becoming increasingly bolder on the wall that this is just not working. It's just not. I love Mike Tomlin, the person. I hate it. But I'll tell you, having done this for 6 years now, if you would say stuff like that in a public forum 5 years ago, you'd get killed. People would be like, that's nuts. It's so crazy. But now, among not just sort of like the typical like old head Tomlin, blah, 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 just among like the general fan base, I feel like it's turning. Don't you guys? Don't you feel like people are starting to kind of feel different now?
How can it not?
Yeah.
How can it not? We hear the same thing week in and week out, and we see not the same thing happening on the field week in and week out. Look, I'm just calling it like I see it. I'm calling the kettle black, okay? You're trying to tell me that this is what you want to do, but you're not doing it. And you're not really helping, Mike, by the decisions that you're making, Mike. Very bad decisions, in which causes Steve and others to have to explain in grave detail during the commercials.
Yes.
And then get called pessimists because we have to point out the flaws in the game plan.
Yeah, it's bad. Let's just talk. I just want to, just briefly, let's just talk about this last game a little bit. And I just still now, it's been almost a week. And I still just can't get over what they thought they were doing.
Time management?
Just not even the time, just like the game plan. I mean, they played Cincinnati a month ago, and Russell Wilson had his second best game in his career, throwing for 420 yards or something. And I mean, he had 8 pass attempts, I think, going into the fourth quarter. I just was sitting there saying, what are we doing? You know, and speaking to your point there, Steele, about how Tomlin just keeps saying something about, you know, who our identity is and who we think we are. But like, man, how long has it been now that we're trying to reestablish the run game? I mean, seriously, it's been so long where it's
Near
like
decade.
I mean, it's seriously, it's been, you know, Le'Veon last played for the Steelers is going to be 8 years ago almost, right? Next year, I think 17. So like,
See, I told you, getting old.
yeah, I mean, like, you know, it's just, it's at some point, it can't be that hard. It just can't be that hard. It just feels like,
You know,
it's been 6 straight years of ending in the exact same place and spending the offseason being like, yeah, I hope this works out, but I still don't know that I'm convinced we have a quarterback, and I still don't know that I'm convinced we have a running game, and I still don't know that I'm convinced that we have good offensive and defensive coordinators, and I'm just tired of feeling that way every single God. Ugh.
it's so bad, and it's because it's so repetitive, man.
That's
and,
the
I mean,
thing.
It's
It's the same thing every year. It's the same thing. It just happens in different order sometimes. That's all. Sometimes they go 7-3 and then they finish 10-7. Sometimes they go 2-6 and then they finish 10-7. Sometimes they go 7-9. Never 7-9, 9-7, whatever. But it's like, it's just the same thing every year. And you know, man, this collapse was just so predictable. And I hear it from everybody. Oh, well, the schedule screwed them. And don't get me wrong, I was on that in September. Once I remember when we were on this, I don't know which of you I was on this.
Yeah, we were definitely talking about it then.
I don't remember which of you I was on stream with, but I was going through the schedule and I was like, what, are you kidding me? Like, it is ridiculous. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
I agree. It's ridiculous what they did to them with that schedule. If I was the Roonies, I'd be really heated because any team, the Chiefs could have went 0-3 in that stretch. I mean, it was ridiculous. And so, you know, but that's not an excuse. You got to sneak off you got to win one of 3 games or something. I mean, just to salvage something. And none of that speaks to losing to the 3-10 Browns a couple weeks before that, and then losing to the Bengals when you can't even muster up like a field goal with like 2 minutes left. Like, what are we doing?
This may sound overly critical, but in my opinion, it's just true. Is that for a team and for a culture and for a coach like Mike T, who kind of prides himself on no excuses, no explanations, I really can't name another football team that provides more excuses when they lose. My favorite one as of late was George Pickens blaming the snow for why we lost to the Browns, as if there wasn't another football team playing in the snow that night. It's crazy, and it's the lack of ability to change in any real capacity. My favorite example of that was from a couple seasons ago. We had to play the Chiefs. We got destroyed, and we had to play them again in a couple weeks. And they asked Mike Tomlin, hey, what changes are you making to your game plan so that doesn't happen again? And he goes, no, we're not changing anything.
Yeah, in 21. Yep. Yeah.
And we got destroyed yet again. It's just, I don't know. After a while, when you can kind of see the collapse of the train coming, you'd think somebody would want to do something about it.
I'm going to use a horrible analogy here because I can't believe I'm going to do it.
Mike Tomlin does it every week.
How many times have you seen Bill Belichick get out-coached?
Not many.
Here and there. Not
Not
very
many. Not many.
Not many.
I saw Mike Tomlin.
Fair enough.
In fairness, I saw Mike Tomlin outcoach him exactly one time, and that was when Joe Hayden caught that interception up there against. That was the only time they did that. He did outcoach him that day. I'll give him his flowers, but that was one out of 15 times.
How many times has Mike Tomlin been outcoached?
It's been increasing lately.
A lot.
The last few years, they're because and I've often said this is like, there's been more times in the last 5 years or so where the Steelers have lost games where by the time they got to the fourth quarter, it was over. in the bad way, like over not that like that they were done. And that's happened more in the last 5 or 6 years since I've been doing this show. I apologize. It's all my fault, probably. That's happened more times in that amount of time than it did in like the first 25 years of my life, honestly. I mean, I almost never remember that happening the entire sort of Ben Roethlisberger era and the preceding period, even when they were bad. I mean, under Cowher, there was very few games where they ever were losing, 35-13 or something. Yeah. And that's happened surprisingly more often the last few years, even when guys who are, supposed to be defensive superstars are playing. And I think that really points to a little bit of the problems, which is that they just feel very antiquated. That feels like they're trying to run a defense that was successful, in 2002, 2003 with the Tampa Bay Bucks or whatever. And it's getting destroyed by modern coach. I mean, there's no reason that I, as a Steeler fan, should be terrified going into a game against the freaking Arizona Cardinals or the Indianapolis Colts. But for some reason, those young coaches have Tomlin figured out. Other teams don't lose to them. I don't know what it is. The Ravens will go play the Colts and they'll beat them by 40 points. We go play the Colts and they beat us by 30. Explain that to me.
And then we turn around and beat the Ravens.
I know.
Wait a minute. How does that? Wait.
I'll never say Tomlin can't beat his divisional foes because he does consistently. I'll never say that, and that's why they have a chance this week. I'll say it. That's why they have a chance.
Not on a Thursday night.
No.
Not on a Thursday night, though. He's not very good on a Thursday night doing a divisional foe, by the way.
That's true. Yes.
By the way, you know what y'all really need to do is hop on over to patreon.com/5SMU and drop that $4 or $7, because you know what? If y'all want to see this season happen again next year, because you know you do, hop on over there to patreon.com/5SMU and drop the $4 or $7 a month and get you all the cool swag, all the cool stickers, and you get to bug Steve 24/7. Hey, that's worth the price of admission.
The Discord server is worth it alone. I have to say that is the only thing that has kept me even relatively in touch with football content in these last few weeks, because it's a lot of fun. I really love our community. I think it's so lively, and it's constantly
it allows
active.
us to come out here and do this therapy session.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
By the way, shout out to Gage wearing the electric meatball jersey.
We love it. Number 30. Let's go.
I've been trying to start a collection. I'm only up to 3 right now, but this is my most recent one, and I'm super happy with it. I love Jalen. He's freaking awesome. He's just like, I've said it pretty much since he started, really, that he is better than Najee. Not to disparage Najee, but it's just one of these two is the far more efficient runner, and to me, that's
let's go. I'm happy that you're starting up a little collection. As you guys know, jerseys, sports jerseys in general, but especially Steelers jerseys, are one of the only things that I actually collect, and I have amassed an unbelievable, and it's not like a brag, it's just I've hold on to everything I've had since I'm like 12, like so many Steelers jerseys, like an obscene amount.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, an obscene amount. So yeah, that's exciting. What was I going to say about...
a little bit of exception that you guys get to both showcase all of the Steeler memorabilia that you have, and I have kind of just my backdrop here with like 3 things.
Listen.
No, but see, that's cool, man, because I like the sign. So
and as we're talking, about jerseys, I just have to, I gotta flex my Mitchell and Ness, like Jerome Bettis. This is the classic like sweater jersey, the long sleeves, like. I mean, the square numbers. This is classy.
Yeah, man.
And I like. Go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say I like that, man. That's really nice, man. I like the long sleeves on that, man.
It's classy, You could wear this out to a steakhouse or something, fancy dinner, You
Here we go.
Yeah, there you go. Got the 52, of course. We love it.
Yeah, man.
We love it.
This be my jersey, my numbers. It's also, of course, Mr. Mike Webster's number, who I was huge fan of, and he was a hero of mine and that's the position that I played, and that's the reason why I have 52. And if you notice, at Steel Flyers 52 on Twitter. So hey,
I used to buy a lot more jerseys back when the Steelers were good. You know, back when they would win games.
Way back.
Last year, I mean, I think in the 18 months preceding this season, I had purchased 2 number 8 jerseys, and that led me down a path of regret so great.
I remember.
Well, I had to get one once he came in because I just for the content, you know, I got to have it for the pictures. And then going into that second year, all right, give me a break. That preseason, everybody remembers that preseason where we were.
And the first couple games, he was actually, you know,
well, the preseason, you know, came and you were like, okay, and I got a stitched one. I was like, Kenny's gonna be the guy, and yeah, I was wrong. I was wrong. I see him. Funny story. I
mean, hey, you committed the cardinal sin of backing your quarterback.
I know,
and I did too.
After they retire, you know.
I have funny story. I look at a picture of Kenny Pickett in my house every single day because I have a I have a like schedule magnet that Steelers shop sent me like 2 years ago, you know.
Right.
How they send you just like, here's like the calendar, and then like there'll be like 5 players on it, and it's got like TJ and Cam and Minka and Najee and Kenny. And it's just like every day I just look at it's right next on the side of my fridge, right next to like my French press, you know, where I make my coffee in the morning. So every day I see it and I just laugh to myself like, nope, that's not it. Not how it goes. That's not how the story goes.
Feels like it's gonna manifest some bad stuff. You might want to like find a different picture for
Listen, I'd rather have Kenny Pickett starting this weekend than Russell Wilson the way he's playing, right?
It's close.
Oh man!
Listen, all I'm saying is
into that goo.
All I'm saying is when Kenny Pickett got hurt last year, I think we were 6-3.
Mm-hmm.
This year we're 10-7. I mean, it's the same. It's just the same thing. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter.
Really
It doesn't matter what the variables are. Tomlin will figure out how to beat 9 or 10 of the teams we play, and we'll finish second in the AFC North and get a wild card and get stomped in the first round of the playoffs. It's just...
Are you guys watching the chat? By the way, thanks everybody for hopping onto the chat, man. Please,
yeah, I've been reading it,
up, man. Really appreciate that. Are you guys watching the chat? Oh
yeah.
my God. Get Dumlin out.
Yeah.
That right there is the best nickname on the planet.
I know. I'm not going to imply. I don't agree with implying that he's dumb. I just think it's yeah. You know,
in his ways.
It just hit me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just hit you. You know, it was like, okay, that's pretty funny. I like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, hey, listen. I get the frustration.
Mike Tomlin knows more about football than people have forgotten.
Yeah.
Okay, look, all you have to do is watch some of them.
I think you said that. I think you said that backwards.
Oh yeah,
he's forgotten more about football than
most people know, right? Yeah. I did that on purpose. Anyway,
as you're about to insult him, cell phone. I love it.
What I'm trying to say though is that he's probably one of the smartest coaches that I've ever seen, as far as when it comes to certain things. When it comes to other things, he is one of the dumbest.
Yeah.
Okay? He knows how to motivate men. He knows how to say the right thing to get out of the player what he needs to get out of. But his defense is way stale. We're way past the Tampa 2-3. It's just like you said, Steve. Everybody's got that figured out. Nobody else is running it.
Yeah.
Okay, seriously, come on. Okay. The other issue of this is he has really bad clock management.
No, I mean, I can't argue that. That's been getting more and more apparent to an obscene extent. But you know what though? I can't. there's been games this year where I really could have faulted him for that. But I gotta tell you, the Bengals game, to me, 100% on Wilson. I mean, 100. He did the wrong thing every time. It was like the anti-clutch drive. I mean, it was. I got Pickett. I don't care what you say. Pickett would have ran that drive better. I don't care. Pickett would have. He's shown it. There. He had done it many times before. He would be terrible for 3 quarters. He could put a drive together at the end. And I feel like Fields would have been better too. Wilson was terrible, and that's what's killing me about the way that he has fallen off the cliff.
Yeah,
it feels like it's a confidence thing too. It's not just the ability, because we did see the guy back against Washington, who, by the way, ended up 12-5 this year with an elite rookie quarterback. We beat them in the last minute with a 2-minute drive for a touchdown that he dropped in the basket. I mean, it's just he's not playing the same way. He's not seeing things the same way. And I did read a thing about there's stark differences with him throwing against man versus throwing against zone. And he can't throw against zone anymore. That's like the thing. He doesn't do well against it. And if you see the splits in the last few weeks, it's gone up now 70, 80. Everybody plays more zone than man nowadays, but now teams are playing him 80, 85, 90% of the time in zone coverages, and I think that's probably part of why he's struggling.
It's frustrating because we see it happen to Russ pretty much every year of his career, where he struggles the back half of the year. Look it up. It's a trend. Like, people have made videos on it and talked about why is it that first half Russ and second half Russ just aren't the same human being.
Why? What's your give me a guess. What do you think? Posit something.
Well, man, you get figured out, man.
Yeah, but he's been in the league 13 years, though. He can have 400-yard games, and then he can't throw for 200 for a month. That doesn't make any sense.
Adjustments, I think not fatigue, I'm sorry, but to say, over the course of a season, injuries stack up. He can't see over the line, which everybody used to make fun of him for. I remember Brett Coleman and EJ Snyder were talking about how he's never been able to play a successful offense or a successful style of football where he's constantly handing it off and turning his back to the D lineman. That's kind of never been his strong suit. He's always much better from shotgun, where he can spread everything out, especially at this stage of his career where he's not very mobile. And I don't really know what the solution is to. Is it just to play to his strengths and just hope for the best? Is it to play Tomlin ball and just try to avoid turnovers? I really don't have an answer here. I really don't.
I mean, to me, and this is what I would have liked to see against Cincinnati, and I think it's what they should have done, is I just think you have to realize that as this team is currently constructed and the way things are playing out, you're not bowling people over in the run game like you thought you were going to. It's just not. It's not the case. I mean, the numbers bear it out. The Steelers are second in the league in rush attempts, and they're 25th in the league in rush yards. So that is, that's not good. That's so not. Bad. That's not. You're not doing a good job. A run game is supposed to be, if you can run, it's supposed to be a consistent. Okay, I'm getting 4, I'm getting 5, I'm getting 6, and as you watch the Eagles, you watch the Ravens. It don't matter if Barkley or Henry are running, or if it's Justice Hill and Kenneth Gainwell, whoever the heck the Eagles backup is. Those guys go in and they rush for 6 yards. What about this guy for the Giants this year? He had a good game against us. He was a wide receiver, and he comes in. Why is it so impossible? But here's my thing. If it's so abundantly apparent that it's not working like it is, just go to shotgun and let it rip with the quarterback that you brought here. I mean, when the Steelers were at their best this year was when he was throwing the ball a bunch. That they were always trying to be balanced. But if what you're saying is true, Gage, that he has trouble turning his back to the line of scrimmage, and also why are we running all these play actions if 1, our line can't block, and 2, no one's scared of the run game anyway? So who are you faking out?
So that's what I was going to get at too, was the fact that I think, as part of what, Gage, you were saying as well, and I think this has a lot to do with what's happened. Look, it's a team game, and you can't lay it all on the quarterback. 50% of it is his fault. The other 50% of it is his offensive line has deteriorated over the course of the last month and a half of the season. Okay, where they started off really started off a little bit slow, got really strong there in the middle, and then once we got to that 10-3, it was like, wait a minute, what happened?
Yeah.
Nobody could
McCormick got
anymore.
hurt. I know
Okay,
that happened.
okay, but nobody could block anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody could sustain blocks anymore. No, you were
true.
getting way too many sacks. You were getting way too many rushes up the middle. You were getting way too much. You know,
I will say that at this time last year, and Steve can attest to this, I was right here on this very podcast defending Dan Moore and saying he's shown enough, and he's shown at least consistent improvement, maybe not top tier improvement, but consistent improvement, especially from the raw prospect he was when we drafted him and threw him into the Lions' den. But now here we are another year later, and he just got obliterated by the Bengals, and I believe the Ravens also had a field day against him, if I'm not mistaken. And I think we've seen more than enough. I think that, like, we finally have a couple good actual prospects on that line that we're going to keep and develop for years to come. I'm super excited about our center. I'm super excited about McCormick. He's actually been better than I've expected. I mean, who the hell thought that McCormick was going to be a consistent starter? And here
I didn't
is.
I didn't know his name, frankly, until September. Honestly,
Yeah, yeah.
But that's
so,
the
like,
point. Yeah.
Yeah, there's things here to build with, but I think injuries, I think bad play calling, which is another huge problem, as it always is around this time of year. And I think this is, maybe we can kind of pivot to this, is that this isn't, I don't know if this is a play calling problem. Yes, it is. Maybe I should clarify. It's a play calling problem, but if you notice that it's the same play calling problem no matter what offensive coordinator we have, it's the same problem of run, pass, conservative play calling, punting it when we shouldn't, going for it when we shouldn't. Like, I think we're starting to realize that these tendencies aren't really coordinator dependent.
Yes, that's become very apparent in recent years. The run pass kind of thing. I mean, the first down run percentage is outrageous, and I mean this week especially, it was like almost, I think it was something ridiculous. I don't want to misquote it and exaggerate, but I think it was something like 14 out of their first 15 first downs or something were runs. Like, I mean, that's just laughable, really. I mean, it's just, even if you're a running team, the Eagles would never, they might do that in a game where they were beating the Giants by 400 points.
If it's working.
Yeah. But, like, I mean, yeah, you just can't be successful that way. I don't know if it is Art Smith's doing or if it's Mike Tomlin's doing, but either way, it's, how are we feeling? I mean, how do you feel now in aggregate about Art Smith after a year? Do we feel good, like we're in that much of a better spot, or not necessarily?
tidbit.
Okay.
I saw a little blurb that said that Arthur Smith has come out and said that he would accept head coaching interviews.
Yeah, I know. He has a couple interviews. I think he's interviewing with the Jets.
By the way, did I not tell you guys, sorry to interrupt, Steel Fire, but did I not tell you this time last year where I was like, yeah, he'll be here a year, maybe two, and he'll be gone?
Yeah. Let him go. Let him go. I'd be fine with it.
Fine.
After
Tomlin's calling the stuff anyway. Well, no, Tomlin doesn't call anything on the sidelines. He doesn't even carry a frickin' piece of laminated paper that has plays on it or nothing. He just stands there and stares.
Okay.
I think he's a big part in deciding what to do, though. Not specific play calling, but he's definitely the
I understand
what to do guy.
Understand? Yeah, understand.
Definitely.
But of all the coaches that I've ever seen in my whole life, and this is even when I played, all the head coaches had a list of the plays, of the players, not just on our team, but the other team.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the Mike Tomlin.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's never looking at anything. I never see him looking at pictures or anything. Yeah. But I mean, that's
never on the surface.
I'm not going to knock him on that cuz he's been doing this a long time. I can't say how to do that job. But what I will say though is he clearly has his fingerprints on situational stuff on offense. How about the fact that I think there's a case to be made, and I thought there was at the time, but I think you could say it now after all is said and done, I think there was a case to be made that maybe what Art Smith and Mike Tomlin wanted to do, I think maybe it might have fit Justin Fields' skill set better. And I don't think that's like, I don't think that should be like a controversial take at this point. I think we saw a large enough sample size of both to say that. I mean, it wasn't stark. Look, I mean, Justin Fields started 6 games and he went 4-2. Russell Wilson started 11 games and he went 6-5. It is what it is. It is what it is.
And the thing is like playing with Justin Fields and playing him as like mini Lamar was working, and it was working like especially in the turnover differential and the time of possession differential and all those different factors. But it was also just like that it provided something else on those 3rd and shorts that excuse me, that's been missing.
God, yes,
I always loved it. I loved it. It was great. Like right off the bat, I saw where I remember on the previous show where I had said like they're gonna have to use him like mini Lamar, and then they had 3rd down, they had him in shotgun, and then they spread everybody wide right before the snap, and then he went on a quarterback draw for like 7 yards.
Because what are you gonna do?
Perfect.
How do you stop it? You know, I mean, what can you do about that?
Well, I mean, bring him in on those situations and
I hate that. I hate that so much.
I do too, but you know what? Here's the thing. We all have our opinions on who we think should be quarterbacking this team. So let's throw it this way. Okay? We all know that one or both of these quarterbacks are not going to be here next year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So are you trying to tell me that you trust Mike Tomlin to draft another quarterback?
I don't think they're gonna. And for what it's worth, they both averaged almost exactly the same touchdowns per game. Justin Fields 1.6.
No, I know.
And I'm just because I was doing the math while I'm going to answer your thing.
Okay.
Yeah, 1.6 for Fields and 1.5 for Wilson. So really, by just about any metric, I think they were pretty much the same, but I think one opened up the run game a little bit more. That's my thing. I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback. They're going to sign one of these. They're going to sign one of these 2 guys. I think it's as simple as that. I don't know which one at this point. I think it really might depend on how this week looks. I really do. I think if Wilson either wins or, you know, loses in a valiant effort, you know, a respectable effort, I think he'll be the quarterback next year. And I think if that's not the case and he flails, I still would not be surprised at this point if they decided to throw a little bit of money at Fields, and I think Fields would be interested because I think Fields really likes Tomlin, and I think it would be a good opportunity. It's a it's a no lose situation for him, honestly. I mean, unless somebody else is willing, unless somebody's willing to offer him, you know, $100 million, but I don't think that's going to be the case.
My only problem with Fields, all right, I have a few problems with Fields. Yeah, I like his running ability, and that's great, and that gives you that extra dimension that is, you know, something that is, you know, more of how you see the Patrick Mahomes play, because Patrick Mahomes is not only able to, you know, make the passes, but he's also able to tuck in and run and have that kind of mobility. Lamar Jackson has now gotten to the point where he's throwing the ball a little better now. You know what I mean? And it has become more of a you know, a quarterback that can run instead of a running quarterback.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's more of a smart move to do when you need to do, but not after the hot read isn't there. And that's what my problem with Justin Fields is. If the hot read ain't there, he's gone.
Right. But at least he gets. But at least he
guys out there to look at.
Yeah, but at least he was getting something out of it. I remember when we were sitting here talking about this early in the first couple weeks of the season, and they weren't scoring well too much in the red zone, and we were saying they're kicking a lot of field goals, all that kind of stuff. But like, at least they were getting something. I remember us early in the season saying, you know, I think the reason this offense feels different is because they're getting 5 yards on first down. They're getting 6 yards. And just like Gage was saying, like, you had a confidence when it was 3rd and 4 with Fields, because you were like, Well, he could throw it. I mean, he's not. Yeah, is he? Patrick Mahomes in terms of accuracy? No, of course not. But he has a good arm and he can throw the ball. You know, he doesn't have the touch on the deep ball that Russell does. But like, if you had to throw a slant, you know, you can freaking trust the guy. He was doing that capably. And for what it's worth, he did make a couple really excellent throws while he was playing. He had a couple bad ones, but he did make some really excellent ones too. And then you open up the possibility of like, is this play going left? Is it going right? Is he going to pull it? Is he going to hand it? I mean, at the end of the day, like, you could say he was just a first read guy, but Russell Wilson played 11 games and he's supposed to be the quarterback who's dishing it around the ball yard. You know, he's played 13 years in the league. And this is a passing offense that was led by Pat Freiermuth with 65 catches. And Pickens had 59. Okay. I mean, Pickens had 900 yards. Nobody besides those two guys. I mean, Calvin Austin had 550 yards. Van Jefferson played something like 895,000 snaps and had 24 catches. I mean, literally, he had like one of the lowest like targets per route run in NFL history. He played almost every freaking down and he caught 24 passes this whole year. You know, like, so what is the passing offense? You know what I mean? Like, what is it? If I told you, even like when Ben was young and he had, Hines Ward and those guys, if I told you, oh, Hines is going to have 59 catches for 900 yards, you'd be like, big deal. And 3 touchdowns, you know? So, like, really, how much did Wilson really ignite the passing game other than a stretch of really good games against some terrible NFC East pass defenses in the Giants and Washington and the Jets, not NFC East. But I don't know, man. It felt like there was something there with Fields. It felt like that was a moment for this team to lean into something fresh and different, and it felt like they stumbled on it. And I felt it at the time. I felt like I was strongly supportive of Justin Fields. And then I came around to Wilson because he was playing well. But now in totality, the way things have worked out, I don't think they're in a better place than they were 3 months ago. I don't know. Just my opinion.
They're really not. I mean, that's something that I was mentioning, like, in a month or two ago or whatever, whenever Fields got the axe and we brought in Wilson initially. We won this, we won those first couple games. And that was kind of like one of my overarching points was like, yeah, but could Justin not have won those games? Like, for a couple of them, we kind of agreed that we needed Russ to have those deep balls whenever we had them. But I think that generally speaking, especially with this last skid that we've been on for the last however long, I think it's actually really possible we'd have a better record, or at least the same record under Fields, with at least more things on the offense that we could do.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys think we're going to win on Saturday?
Ready? One. Let's all say it at the same time. Ready? 3, 2, 1. No. That's so sad.
I was talking to my friend Kimmy, who is a Baltimore Ravens fan, and she was haggling me and being like, "You guys are obviously going to lose," and I was like, "Yes, we probably are. I can agree on that. But listen, if there is any team that has made a name for themselves the last decade or two at being in games they have no business being in, and at times capitalizing on the opponent's stupidity, if you will, it's this. I said, all we need is you guys to screw up on 1 or 2 little plays, and you guys usually do, because you're not a very fundamentally sound football team. A lot of times it's Lamar Jackson bailing them out. All it takes is 1 or 2 screw ups, and we're in a game. And we're in a game that we have no business being in. That's all. That's my point.
I like it, Gage. I like it. And can also have to say, too, and you can't count on Justin Tucker this year neither. Because he has been horrible as far as his
but he's settled in as the season has gone on. He's balanced out a bit. I mean, obviously
he's doing what Vinatieri did. I guarantee you he'll have another slump somewhere.
Listen, it's not like okay, it's not impossible that the Steelers could win, and I'm not gonna. They still have beaten this team 8 out of 10 times or something like that, something miraculous
9 of
like
the last
that.
11.
Yeah. So I mean, it's
Not a joke.
Can they beat them? Absolutely. Would I be extremely surprised? Yeah. I will put it this way. I felt more confident in the 10-7 Steelers with Mason Rudolph going to Buffalo last year than I do the 10-7 Steelers going into Baltimore this year. I really did, because that was a team that, say what you want, they won 3 in a row to get to the playoffs, and something was working for Rudolph, and you just kind of were like, hey, why not? Why can't he be Nick Foles? Why not? Why can't it happen? And this time I'm kind of feeling fine. I'm feeling myself saying, why can it happen? You know? And I just don't feel like it's there. I feel like you can feel a sense of weight developing with this Tomlin, Minka, TJ, Cam kind of thing, where this is the backbone of whatever this last half decade of Steelers football has been, and it's starting to feel like there's a really big monkey on their collective backs, if you will. And
0 playoff wins.
Nothing. I mean, that's the thing. At some point, you know, it shifts, right? And the tone changes. You know, when TJ's younger and you first start seeing him be the guy people look to, right? He'll be like, he was talking about, oh, well, you know, James Harrison and Ben, and there was still like a tie to that, right? Mm. But now, I mean, there's Cam, who was a part of a few playoff wins, you know, a handful. You know, he was on the team in like 2011 or whatever. So like he touched that, right? But still not really been there. And TJ, especially now, you're coming up on a guy who's been like a decade almost in the league as an all-pro, one of the best players in the league. And you hear reporters ask him questions, and I'm thinking to myself, like, what can he draw from? Like, I mean, how can he, I mean, he's literally, and that's not to knock him. Obviously, TJ Watt is a much better person at what he does than me ever will be, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not knocking the guy. It's just the fact the guy has literally never been a part of a playoff win. It's bizarre.
I'm going to go out and say this, man. I'm going to go out and say this, and you can call me an old head. You can call me whatever you want. But as far as I'm concerned, if the Steelers don't make the playoffs, that's a losing season.
I agree.
Yeah, that's fair.
So you can say 8-8 or 9-7 or whatever you want to call it. Not having a losing season, if you don't make the playoffs, that to me is considered a losing season. And I'm not all that terribly excited about the fact that, okay, you didn't have a losing season, but you limp into the playoffs by losing the last however many games, your last 5 games, right? And now you want to try to go into the playoffs with some kind of head of steam? What kind of steam are you going to have with that?
Yeah.
What kind of confidence are you building for your team? The reason why you felt better last year, Steve, is because we won the last 3 games.
Yeah,
we were going into that playoff game having no shot on this planet to beat the Bills, right? But we thought, so you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah.
Because we won the last 3 games. It didn't matter who was at quarterback. It didn't matter none of that stuff, right? Here we are right now. We lost the last 5 games. Now we're going into this playoff game. 4, sorry. We're going into this last playoff game, and we're trying to win against Baltimore in Baltimore?
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, if there's one team that any given year that we can beat and probably 2-0, we didn't 2-0 them this year, but we usually do. It's Baltimore, and at least in recent years, like because our defense has just done a good job. It's one of the few good spots on our defense has been shutting down Lamar.
I get you. And Tomlin has a really good record against the Ravens, but you go back to this many playoff wins in the last however many years.
Okay, all right.
How many playoff wins have the Ravens had in that stretch?
They've had
like 1.
They've had a handful. They've had a handful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but okay. So here's the thing. Here's the question. All right, let's do this as an exercise.
Ooh, I like exercise.
Let's make the case. Let's start with you, Cage. Make the case, like, if the Steelers are gonna win, right? What is an acceptable points given up? Like, what would you say is like the line where you're like, that's a good job by the defense this week?
Not to cliche it, but I think 24 around the league average. If your defense gives up 24 points, they give up 21 points, something like that, especially in the playoffs, you largely have to win those games. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's the playoffs. This is the NFL. If you can't score 21 points, then a lot of times you don't deserve to win.
Right,
I
but
mean, especially with a defense that we know what our defense is at this point, and it's not. We can't rely on the defense holding up to 10 points every game.
No,
That
I
will not
agree.
happen.
I agree, but I would just say I think 24. I think that's rosy. To be honest, I think if the Steelers held the Ravens the way they're playing right now to 24, 25 points, I'd be like, that's a game you should win. And I think to me
Really?
that, yeah, I mean, if you hold them to 25 points, yeah, I think Baltimore, the way they're playing, I'm sorry, they're going to score 27, 28 points. They are. They just are. And I think you're being hopeful if you think that's not going to be the case, because you know, the way that Tomlin's defense has played in the playoffs the last decade, where they normally give up 43 points. All right,
That's the one contributing factor.
I'm just saying,
isn't it?
if you
Is
hold
playoff defense,
if you hold Baltimore, I think it would be Can somebody look up what Baltimore scored this year, like points per game? Just somebody pull that up? I just want to know. But like,
pull that shit up, Jamie.
yeah, pull that up, Jamie. Anyway, I think Baltimore.
Thanks, Jamie.
Yeah, I think Baltimore is going to score 27, 28 points. And so I'm telling you that to win this game, this offense that has done virtually nothing since Thanksgiving is going to have to score at least 30 points. And do you feel that that's likely? If you feel that that's likely, then you could tell me you think there's a chance. But other than that, I can't see it.
I'm trying really hard not to laugh. That's why I was like really thrown off when you guys said, "Yeah, Baltimore's going to score 25 points, and we're okay with that." I'm like, so you mean to tell me that this offense has to come up with 26 or more points? What planet do you guys live on?
I mean,
I'm holding on to 24. I think hold the Ravens to 24 or under. I know that may sound a little rosy, but listen, it's a divisional game, and these divisional games are always different every time. Especially in the AFC North, man. And we do a good job of shutting them out. 24. I think we can get to 24. We need one turnover at least. If we get 2 turnovers, we should win the game.
If you told me right now that the Steelers are going to hold them to 24 points or less, I would actually put money on them and say they have a chance. But I just don't think that's the number. I think it's going to be closer to 28 or 30, and I don't see them able to match that. I just don't.
If we have 0 turnovers, then they will get to 30.
Turnovers are the great equalizer. Turnovers are the thing that can change anything.
The thing that the only thing that I think is going to change it is if the Steelers get the Ravens from the first time we played them.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't
we beat ourselves the second time around. I'm not saying that they were completely. The Ravens were so much better the second time.
No, the pick six. The pick six was that whole game. The pick six was that whole game. I mean, yeah.
I get you, but what I'm saying is that when you give up that many points, and you haven't been able to even sniff that many for yourself. How do you even remotely think you're going to have some kind of confidence? What do you tell this team? I mean, what could
Don't
you
blink. If you blink, cut your eyelids off.
Well, one thing, it's going to be cold.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you this. Do you think
Definitely going to be cold.
Do you think they're going to come out more aggressive than they did against Cincinnati, or no?
No.
Really?
Quite the opposite.
I mean, they can't be any less aggressive. That was perhaps the most conservative. That was like a Duck Hodges game plan. I mean,
wouldn't you be expecting that though?
I know, but I just don't see how they could be. I
get it, but
because you're gonna have to. Do you really think Tomlin's gonna walk out and try to play an 18-16 game? Like,
yes.
All day long.
Then they're gonna lose by 20 points. I'm being honest. Because that's not gonna happen. It's just not. Anybody who's gonna delude themselves in. I'm not saying the Steelers don't have a chance, but I'm saying if the Steelers delude themselves into thinking they're gonna have that kind of a game in this situation, it is not going to happen. It's not. Baltimore at home in front of their crowd with a chance to knock off their boogeyman. No way. It's not happening. It's not happening. You're not. They're gonna score points. They're gonna put points up. Lamar's gonna put points up unless he turns the ball over a bunch or gets hurt. He's gonna score points. The Steelers have to come into this with a mindset of, I need 31 points. And if they really do think, and as convinced as you two were, I probably tend to agree, that's not a good sign. Go ahead, Gage. What do you got?
I just gotta say, like, let's throw a curveball in here just for the hell of it. It's like, what if, God forbid, I'm not ever wishing for this, but what if Russ gets hurt in like the first play of the game and they throw Justin Fields in? They're like, there you go, pal. No preparation, no anything for the week. Just what do you think would happen then?
It'd be an opportunity for a man to make a lot of money. Like that, and that was what I was always excited about with Justin Fields in general. Was I just felt it to me, it felt like there was more to root for there. You know, the Russell Wilson thing, I never felt convinced that there was, even when he was playing really well, I never felt convinced that this was going to be a team that was suddenly going to win a Super Bowl.
Usual.
I thought they were going to be able to be like a contender and get to the AFC Championship or something and like maybe have a chance. But I never felt as though he transformed them into a Super Bowl team. I felt he could transform them into a team where, like, if they got an easy path to the, you know, they got the second seed and they got to play the Texans and then they got, you know, whatever, something, you know, you could see it, you could squint and see it, you know. But I never felt like he raised the ceiling all that much more than Fields. And I thought that, you know, like I said, if Fields were to play this week, you'd be looking at a guy who's going to be a free agent and have an opportunity not to get the Joe Flacco contract, obviously, but like, you know, that sort of a situation. And instead, it feels like you have a whole team of guys who are shook and trying to convince themselves of why they can do this. And it just feels to me like there's going to be a flurry because we know the Steelers have no ability to score in the first quarter. I think they're scoring like 2.3 points per game in the first quarter, which is obscene. I mean, you're averaging less than a field goal. That's nuts. And so there's going to be a moment in this game, like the last Ravens game, where Baltimore is probably going to be up 13-0 or 14-3 or something like that. And you're going to have, I don't know what it's going to be yet. You'll see it when it happens, where this team just either says, oh crap, here we go again. Or they say, all right, let's go. We got this, you know? And that moment's going to come. I don't know if it's second quarter, third quarter, but I don't know, man. I don't know.
And you don't have Renegade to save you on this one.
Well, that's the thing. On the road too, you can fall into that pit of despair real quick. Scary.
I'm gonna say this. I have been trying very hard to be optimistic about this game. I have been trying very hard to have a positive attitude about this game because they made the playoffs. Right? So my number one criteria is it's a losing season if you don't make the playoffs. All right. Check that box off. We made the playoffs. Okay.
And that's it.
And that's it. Right? You made the playoffs. You limped. You didn't play your best ball when you should have been playing. Okay? So it's really hard to try to put a good positive spin on this. So here's how I look at it. You got absolutely, positively nothing to lose.
True.
I love the saying that Bill Cowher had. He said, I want the whole playbook. Use it all. You lay it on the line. You got 70 or 80 plays that you're going to get to run. Do it.
Yeah.
That's where we got to do, right? If you do that and everybody executes 90% of the time, because you know football is 90% mental.
Yeah.
The other 10%'s in your head is what they say.
Or
right.
You know the classic Yogi Berra-ism. It's one of my favorite sayings. He says, 90% of the game is half mental.
See, there you go, right?
Isn't that a good one?
Right. See, there you
Gage,
go.
what do you got?
Perfect.
I saw something on the tip of your tongue there.
It's funny. We were talking about Cowher and kind of reverting it back to Tomlin and coming up with this playoff game and whatnot. Is that like I always felt that Cowher's style of ball control, because that's what Tomlin likes to do too. He likes to hold on to the ball and not take risk and whatnot. Cowher's philosophy, I don't know if anybody really paid attention, was throw early to run late. Like you'd say that they would come out guns blazing a lot of times, and it was because then you go into halftime with a 14-10 lead or so. He was 107, 1-1 when he had the lead at halftime, and the whole throw early to run late thing is that you almost count out possessions off of the clock.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that Mike T has ever been. I've long said he has the worst clock management in all of the NFL. And I've been told that that's too pessimistic. I don't think it's pessimistic, man. I think it's true.
I think it's part of his. Yeah, I agree, his clock management, but I think it's part of his strategy, and this is what he hasn't adapted without Roethlisberger. His strategy most of his career was to make it late early. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I don't think with the team that he had with Ben, I don't think that was the wrong move. I just think it's that we've seen he just has not pivoted in the post Roethlisberger society. He just hasn't. He's still trying to win games the same way, and it's just the reason we see the results are so much more variable is because we don't have. I hate this. I hate being in this position again. Now, I mean, I'm 35 and I'm calling, and I feel like I'm 70 because I feel like my uncle when I was a kid, when they had Terry Bradshaw, and I'm like that with Ben now, where I'm just like,
no.
But when they had Ben, it was different because he would bail you out by being one of the best,
my little world,
by being one of the best players that there ever has been in the NFL. I mean, that's just a quantifiable fact by any metric, Roethlisberger. So I just I hate being in that position, but that's why the results are so much more variable because he doesn't have that player at that position to fall back on. And I think what was so alluring about Russell Wilson for Mike Tomlin was that he thought he was getting that again. He thought he was getting somebody who was going to be able to make those right decisions and do those right things. But as we've seen in the last month, this is a guy who I think is maybe struggling with his confidence a little bit, even though he would never admit it because he's always says the right thing. He always, we're going to win. We're doing the right thing. We're going to do the right thing. But I think you see it in his play. That drive that we talked about at the end of that Bengals game, that was not the drive of a confident quarterback. Ben Roethlisberger, I could count on one hand maybe the amount of times I've ever seen him do anything like that guy did. And he did 3 plays on that drive that were no, that's not, you can't take that. You know what I mean? And I just, yeah.
Are we coming to the realization that Russ might just not be as good of a quarterback as we all have kind of assumed he was during his time with Seattle? No, listen, hear me out on this.
He's an accomplished
guy. I know he's an accomplished guy, but you saw that the second that he didn't have Pete Carroll, first of all, he fell apart and flamed out horribly in Denver, and then finally when we got Sean Payton in there and he had a little bit of a resurgence in there, it just feels like he's always needed some really good coach tied to his hip to have any kind of real success. You're seeing that when Mike Tomlin is like, hey pal, I need you to do what Ben did, he's like, what?
Yeah,
it's
but
strange.
I'm not saying that about a guy who's had 34, 34, 35, 31, 40 touchdown seasons. No, he's accomplished. I'm not taking anything out of what he's ever done. He's just not that guy anymore. The arm, see, here's the thing. Here's the difference between him aging and Roethlisberger aging. Roethlisberger was able to adapt once his legs were gone, and he was able to continue playing for about 5 or 6 years. Ben didn't run really after 2010 was about the time that his knees started being pretty crappy. And, he still had a little bit of mobility, but by 14, those last 5 years or 6 years or so, Ben wasn't moving at all anymore. People remembered that guy, but that's not who he was anymore by those seasons. But he was able to adapt, and then even then he went into like the third stage where his arm had blown out, and he just didn't have it. But even then, he was still able to be somewhat successful. Yeah, and I think Wilson is a guy that, the athleticism was a part of that. It was a part of what he was doing, those rollouts and the throwing on the run. The guy has an amazing arm. There's no doubt about that. But getting out on at the outside of the pocket and being able to see things, we're seeing that's like where he doesn't operate, is he's not really great in the pocket under pressure because he doesn't have that vision.
Can't see.
And there are ways you can counter it, like the Saints did with Drew Brees. But look, if that's the formula, then how come it didn't work out between him and Sean Payton? And I've been on record saying Sean Payton's a huge jerk, and he probably is. But also it does make you kind of wonder, like, why couldn't they? And now he took Bo Nix, who was a guy I didn't think was going to be a good NFL quarterback. I honestly didn't. And he's been a million times better than I thought he was going to be, even just as a rookie. So it does make you ask, like, well, what was the problem there, right? I don't know. So
that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's one of those things. Like I said, I'm trying to see the good side of it, but.
All right, let's do another hot button issue. Najee Harris is a free agent. Do you think he's going to be back?
No chance. No, just no chance. I really doubt it. I would love for him to come back. I would love for him to continue that 1-2 punch with Jalen, but I just don't see it happening. I think some team is going to offer him, candidly, probably more money than they should, especially with the track record of running backs as of late. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. Paying Derrick Henry worked, paying Saquon Barkley worked. There's a couple outliers here and there. But, yeah, I think some team's going to offer him a lot of money. I think he's going to leave. And I think he's probably going to get probably a little bit less of the workload somehow. I mean, outside of maybe this year with Jalen. But I don't know, man. I would love for Najee to come back. I don't think he will. And God bless him.
Fair.
I don't foresee. I would love for him to come back as well. I don't
think he wants to, though.
I would like to see him stay, and I do agree. I would like to see him plugged back in with the electric meatball. Here's the thing that I've seen with Najee Harris as a first-round draft pick. He has, I would have to say, lived up to the hype.
You think?
To a certain extent. Okay. He has been able to produce relatively. I mean, look, you get to 1,000 yards as a running back. That to me is producing relatively. He's had a lot of.
He plays 17 games. He plays 17 games, and I mean, to his credit, I'm not going to knock him. He does play every single game every year, and I give him a lot of credit for that. But is 1,000 yards in 17 games when two guys went for 1,900 and 2,000? Is that good?
When you see the type of offensive line we have, when we see the type of game planning that we have, when we see the type of the offense that we have, this offense does not have the personnel to be a run pass team. They're trying real hard to be, but they're not. They have the 1-2 punch, right? But let's face it. If you get to third down and it's still 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, you're chasing the sticks.
Let me tell you, you want to know an unbelievable fact? I'm looking at the leading rushers this season. There is exactly one other person in the top 20 rushers this season who was below 4.1 yards per carry. Najee and DeAndre Swift were the only guys who averaged below that number. Najee 4.0 and DeAndre Swift 3.9.
He's just not efficient.
He just doesn't he doesn't hurt you, but does he add anything? Does he
He gives you 3.5 yards a carry when he should get 1 yard. and he also gets you 3.5 yards a carry when he should get 7 yards.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
He's kind of the
I'll buy
he's the
that.
running back. No. He's the running back equivalent of Mike Tomlin.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
like,
a great analogy, and that's why we like. But
That-
that's why we like the electric meatball, man. Because
whoa, that's a
Not
great.
only-
You might have just blown my mind a little bit there. That explains everything. It really does. That is perfect. Yeah. I mean, it's just stark. You look at the guys ahead of him, and it's like 13 touchdowns, 16 touchdowns, 14 touchdowns, 14 touchdowns, 11 touchdowns, 15 touchdowns. Najee, 6. Like there's nobody. All of the guys ahead of him have at least 7 more touchdowns than him. Like, not like they all have 2 more touchdowns. They all have 7, 8, 9, 10 more touchdowns. And he carried the ball 263 times.
how many times did the Steelers get into the red zone?
Yeah.
Like
How
4.
many times do they get? How many times do they get goal to go, where they can just hand the rock off to Najee and all he has to do is lean forward?
But it didn't work. It didn't work. They did that. They were always trying to run the ball on 1st and goal from the 8, and it just never worked. It only worked for a brief time.
No. From the 8. No. See, 1st and goal from like the foot yard, where all he has to do is fall over.
Yeah.
Like, no, he doesn't get those carries. That was given to Justin Fields or Russell Wilson or somebody else. That wasn't given to Najee. There's your 6 or 7 other touchdowns that all the other guys have.
Okay, that's fair, but I could also just easily point out to you that Justin Fields had exactly 201 less carries than Najee Harris, and he scored 1 less touchdown than him.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, say what you want, but there's efficiency there. He carried it 200 less times, and he had the same amount of touchdowns.
Najee is actually kind of a good. I don't know if idiom's the right word here, but he's a very good comparison for kind of the way that the Steelers are as a whole, where like they're kind of like a boxer that doesn't pace themselves and tries to knock you out the entire fight.
Yeah.
And then then that boxer will go up against Floyd or Manny or whoever that has slick movement and defense and tactics. And all of a sudden they do nothing.
I feel like Najee, and again, I hate this because I love Najee the person, as I've said repeatedly. Like I think he's a great leader and all this. Like, but I do. It feels to me like, you remember when I used to say this about Terrell Edmonds, because he would get a lot of hate as a 1st-round pick. And I do agree ultimately that he was not worthy of that pick. I mean, they should have drafted Lamar Jackson, quite frankly. I think we all know that now. Say what you want, they should have drafted Lamar Jackson. I mean, it's abundantly
apparent. Do you think we would have developed him?
I don't care, but they should have. They should have tried. I don't care if they did. It wouldn't have been my,
fair.
But they should have tried. That was the whole league screwed up on that. I mean, that's like 11 people getting drafted before Steph Curry or something like that. Like, I mean, the whole league being like, no, we're good on that guy. All right, you're lost.
29 teams passed on TJ Watt.
Yeah, exactly.
11 teams passed on Ben.
And the Cleveland Browns were one of them, amazingly.
Oh man, that was just so funny because, like, especially because we were supposed to take Rivers in that draft.
Yeah, that was the rumor.
God, like, Ben and Rivers were essentially the exact opposite of each other. They're both very good players, but one of these guys was clutch and one of these guys was anti-clutch. Like, it felt like every time Rivers got into some kind of situation in the quarter, he threw a pick right to the opposition.
One of them was a family man. One of them was Ben Roethlisberger.
I didn't know how you were going to end that joke. So
3 or 4 kids at that point, right?
We back.
God.
Okay, but my point was about Najee, right? I was going to say, remember how I used to say with Terrell Edmonds, like, he wasn't worth the 1st-round pick, but I would often say that if he was your 11th best starter on a unit, I think that's fine. You are going to have a 10th best player on the field. Like, that's, sometimes that's okay. But the problem is Najee is a kind of guy where if he's your 10th or 11th best player on offense, I think you could be good. I think you could be good. But I think if you're asking Najee Harris to be the third best player on your offense, I don't think your offense is going to be very good. And I think that's part of what we've seen play out. And again, I love Najee Harris. I want this to be said as part of this. I think he's a great guy. I'm not like mad we drafted him. It's not Kenny Pickett. But
He's not a bust.
But no, and he's gonna leave. He doesn't want to be here anymore. After they declined that option, I don't think he wants to be here. And I don't think that affected his effort, any of that kind of stuff. I'm not, playing 17 games every year as a running back in this league. You could sit out and just be like, my hamstring hurts, and nobody's gonna say anything. And he has never done that. So respect, and I love him, and I hope he goes somewhere and kills it. But he does not raise the ceiling or the floor of this team.
When you watched him, when you watched him at Georgia, what did they do? They played to his strengths. They allowed him to get to the second tier.
Well, he was Roll Tide, not to be that guy, but yeah.
But you know what I'm saying, right? I'm sorry, my mistake.
Well, you forgot the SEC because the Penn States and the SEC is all gone, right? See, you could own me there for the first time maybe ever in college football.
Like I said, man, I'm not trying to brag about it or put it out there, man, because I want my team to win.
Army Black Knights own you all.
I just checked the score. Penn State's losing by 42 in the first quarter. That's weird.
Yeah, all right.
42 to nothing. That's crazy in a bowl game.
Wait,
wow.
No, hold on a minute.
5 interceptions
in the first quarter? Holy smokes! What are you talking about? The Steelers? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh no. I remember. No, I'm not even kidding. Like whenever we got demolished by Cleveland, and that was in the wild card round, and that was my big. I've kind of had it with the Tomlin era moment. And I've still stuck true to that kind of since. But I do remember that after the snap over the head, I think it was like 28-0 or so. And then I had my buddy text me, who's a Broncos fan, who had dealt with the 43-8 Seattle game and was like, dude, I feel bad for you.
Oh,
that was rough to deal with.
What was the worst of the like
Tebow.
Was the Jaguars or the Browns game worse?
I think the Jaguars game was the worst. And the reason why I say that is because that was the second go round.
Yeah.
That was the best the Killer Bees were ever going to be. That was their opportunity.
That one stings more.
That's why I picked that one, because it stings more.
But it was also a valiant effort.
Was never gonna win, though.
Like I have some amount of a positive memory from that game, because I was like, whoa, they're gonna really do this.
They were close.
But Cleveland, that I have just no. That was just in my brain that just pisses me off. Like that one, I just hate even thinking about that game. I hate the image of Ben crying on the bench. That was just awful. That was awful.
And I hated, on top of all that, I hate that we could have made that a game. No one ever talks about this. Why would they? Who cares? But we were within 10, I think, and we had a 4th and 1, like at midfield, and Tomlin punted. And right there, I was like, we lose.
He punted, and not just that. The killer in that, you can go back and watch that game. I remember it to this day. They scored a touchdown before half, the Steelers did, and I think it made it 28-14. Maybe I want to say they made it 28-14, and then they gave the ball back over to Cleveland with like 75 seconds. And remember, Baker let him right down for a touchdown before half, and that was the moment where I was like, it's insurmountable at that point, no matter what you do. And it was just, that was the moment where I was like, oh, like you just.
Quick question. Why is that another Tomlin signature where right before half or right after we finally score a touchdown, almost every time they go right down the field and score against us again? Like, why does that keep happening?
I wish I could tell you.
I have an inkling, but, we're trying to be positive here, and we're not trying to like Tomlin.
I will say that, like, out of all the playoff losses, I still say that the Tebow one is the worst out of all of them. Like, I've never been so embarrassed by a game before.
Here's what I get to revel in now. You guys now understand what it was like or you guys were spoiled by having a Hall of Fame quarterback playing for your team. And now you're in an era where you got a guy who was basically gifted Roethlisberger,
Yeah.
okay, and has not been able to remotely bring in, draft, sign a quarterback to even lead this team anywhere. Okay? So you have those couple years where either the quarterbacks are you don't even remember who they are, or you remember who they are because they were so horrible.
Yep.
And eventually you're going to get to a point where the coach has to go. Okay? So now we've had those couple years now where the quarterbacks have not panned out. We even had a first round pick that within 2 years you traded him away.
Yeah.
So,
Which we had to.
okay, but
Not a good look, though.
okay.
Yeah.
So you see where I'm going with
No,
this,
okay,
right?
so I see where you're going, but I will say I'm old enough to remember the Cower slump from like 98 to 2001. I do remember that. So like I have some perspective, it's not like, and I remember 2003 quite well. So I have seen, what happens when you don't have a quarterback, of course, but like you're right, we have been totally spoiled, but I would just say the Steelers, are in a longer playoff drought than they were in the 80s. They never had a stretch this long without winning. Even in the 80s, they had a couple. They got to an AFC Championship game in like 80. Help me out, 84, something like that.
Yeah. 84.
Was that when we lost to Miami, or am I thinking of something
Yeah,
else?
I think when Miami went to when Miami went to the
Okay,
Super
yeah.
Bowl with Dan Marino, right? Is that I think.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
they had I remember 88, I think it was. Didn't they win a playoff game with Bubby
Yeah.
Brister or something?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
like, I mean, a different league, obviously, but it is, I mean, it is a longer streak. Obviously there's more teams now, so it's different.
We've essentially had two slumps back to back, and there doesn't appear to be any end in sight.
It's it's not looking great, but also, does the narrative change if they come out and they kick ass this week? Maybe
a little bit.
Right?
A little bit.
It changes the tenor. I mean, if you went into the season and said, "Oh, they're gonna win 10 games and win a playoff game," you would have been like, "Yeah, that'd be pretty good."
That's the thing, is that like when we went 12-4, like even though we lost 3 of 4 after going
Yeah.
11-0, and then we lost to Cleveland. But like literally, if we would have just won that Cleveland game, and hell, even have the collapse in the beginning of the first half, we just don't punt.
Yeah.
We go for it, get it. Maybe we make that a game. Hell, maybe you come out and win because Cleveland's offense was finally stalling. Just if that game goes different, I look at that season way differently. It's just the fact that we lost 3 of 4, then collapsed in the wild card like we always do, that just makes it sting so much more.
Right.
Can't even disagree with that. But like I said, I've been trying to put a positive spin on this.
Mm-hmm.
But the history and the previous and everything else. So let me ask you guys this question. Who do you think could potentially be the next coach? Since we've been like utterly bashing Tomlin for his lack of whatever, playoff wins, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
What realm of coach do you think the Steelers could even remotely call down from and ask to be their coach?
Rex Ryan.
Oh, God. Did you hear that Buffalo was
Whoa.
trying to get Rex Ryan to be their DC last year?
No,
Yeah,
I didn't. I
no.
know he's interviewing supposedly with the Jets again.
I want to see that just for the
That would
hilarity.
be so
Maybe
funny.
He'll pull it off.
That would
Maybe
be
he'll
so
pull it
funny.
off. Who knows?
Are you
Listen to the
buying?
press
Are you buying a little smoke to the Belichick pulling another Belichick? Have you heard this? Have you heard
Yeah.
this? That he's actually that like the Raiders are actually thinking about trying to make a play for him,
No
and like
way.
people are
Because
saying
Tom Brady is a minor owner.
people. I mean, because he did this to the Jets, right? Like people are saying like he really might. because he didn't think he was going to get an NFL job, so that's why he took that North Carolina job. But how funny would that be?
I don't know if I said the same year or if I said a year or two from then, but I do remember a couple weeks ago where I said, watch, he's going to take an NFL coaching job or something because of this. Like, yeah, I can totally see that. Good for good for him. What if he just, because like the Raiders almost fit his style to a T usually. Like they had some success with some mixed success, we'll call it, with Gruden and whatnot. And Antonio Pierce kind of came in and sparked the team up again. I don't know what the hell Josh McDaniels was doing. It felt like he took every single lesson he learned from Denver and then threw them all out the window before he went to the Raiders.
Yeah.
I don't know. Belichick will either go like 3-14 with the Raiders, or he'll turn them around. One of the two.
All this to say, of course, I'd sign up for Bill Belichick to be the next head coach of the Steelers, easily. I'd do that tomorrow.
I think I would too.
Oh, I would do that
too.
in a heartbeat. I don't care. I would sign up for that tomorrow. It's never gonna happen. But I'd sign up for it.
I'm tired of the tomfoolery. Like this is the most like old timey
tomfoolery. Gage, you just aged. You just aged
off tonight.
You just aged 60 years. Where were you born?
Yeah.
Was World War II happening when you were born? What?
Listen, I live in I was born and raised in a town with a population of 2,000.
Oh my
okay?
God,
So-
you are. Oh my God, you're like a character
listen,
from Fallout or something. This guy.
You know,
God.
by the way,
My wife loves Fallout.
Blast
so
from the
that's
past. You ever seen that movie? You know that one with Brendan
fair. I
Fraser?
vaguely know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, tomfoolery.
No, but-
I get you.
by the way, take your tomfoolery over to
Patreon.com.
over to Patreon/5SMU and get signed up for your $4 or $7 a month to get all of the great cool stuff here, and you get access to the Discord, and you get the full show without any commercial breaks or anything else like that, and you also get to bug Steve 24/7 on the Discord as well.
It's a fun time, and I appreciate everyone that supported us in our 6th season. Yeah, I mean, excuse the clickbait title on the stream. This is not going to be the last stream ever. I'm just being dramatic.
I was wondering that too.
Thank God. When I saw that, and then I saw your message to him, and I was like, "Ever?"
Okay, good. Someone saw me.
If you guys haven't learned by now that I am cantankerous and mysterious, come on. I'm ornery, borderline ornery. I like to just, I like to be mysterious.
Keeping it honest.
Listen,
Is it because you don't have a toothbrush?
Yeah,
is that why you're ornery?
The last month there were, what's this, what's that? And I'm like, listen, I opened the door for my friends and my coworkers, Gage and Frayne, to do a little bit of work during these lost weeks. The full main show that we do with the 20 minutes with the highlights. Do you know how many words I write? Like, I'm not even exaggerating. It's like 3,000 words or something I write it takes a long time. And if, these lost episodes, 2,000 people watch it, 1,000 people sometimes, I get it. We all feel down. But and we have something fun, like a little playoff game, we show back up and we have a little fun,
Well, you know what? If they win...
Well, then we got another week.
I was just going to say again, we're going to have to do another one. Oh, no.
We'll be right back here.
I am dying to make a playoff episode. I mean, guys, it's been 6 years. I'm getting old. There's a finite amount of this work I have left in me. You know what I mean?
Hey, listen, I got to tell you guys something. First of all, big shout out to Amfram, man, for what he does. Oh my God.
Frayne, yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah,
he did a great
dude.
job on this episode. It was very vulgar, but he did an unbelievable job on his solo episode.
Okay, right? But
so good.
no. But all the work that he does, period.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Just everything that he does, and everything that Gage does, and everything that Steve... Look. When you drop your $4 or $7 a month at Patreon/5SMU, this is the kind of quality stuff that you get. This is what your money pays for, is this quality people. Frame, Gage, Steve. Look, this is what it's all about. This is why we're all here. Okay? This is what it's all about. The show that we get to enjoy, that you guys put out, right? it gives us something to look forward to. And yeah, sometimes the Steelers are going to lose, and it's going to suck, and you hate it, and we're all Yinzers here, and we hate to lose. But we can look forward to a cool video from Gage, or a cool video from Frame, or a cool video from Steve, 5-star matchup, because he's in it, right? That's what this is all about. That's why we love doing this for you guys, man, because this is what it's all about, making it all roll. You know what I'm saying?
Sir.
Right? So patreon.com/5SMU, $4 or $7. You want to see a season 7, right? Because we want to see Super Bowl win number 7, right?
Yes.
Season 7. Come on.
It would work perfectly. We get season 7, we get championship number 7. It would work perfectly.
Listen.
5 and 2 is
With-
7. 5 and 2 is 7.
With a little bit of time passage now since the initial question, was Belichick your actual answer, or were you just kind of throwing an idea?
I
out
mean,
there?
that just kind of happened coincidentally. I don't know. I mean, I never have an answer to questions like that. Like, I mean, obviously, you know, Ben Johnson and both of the coordinators for Detroit, you know, have rave reviews, and people think they should both get jobs. Brian Flores is deserving of another job. I thought they should have kept Brian Flores and promoted him to defensive coordinator personally back then. And I think that's playing out in real time in Minnesota. Minnesota is doing some really innovative and interesting stuff on defense with lesser caliber players than the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing. So, yeah.
When he gets to run it.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, but I'm not going to really entertain that as a serious question because I don't think there's any chance.
He signed for another 2 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Tomlin's not going anywhere for a year, 2, 3, unless frankly, he does come to, like, if they lose a game in the playoffs again and it's, you know, bad or something, and maybe he just gets to a point where he's like, you know, I just don't know if I, you know, like at some point, even the most confident person in the world, right, at some point you have to start like feeling a little like, do I have this, right? And that's a weird thing to ponder about Mike, because regardless of what you think about him, we all think of him as a resounding and confident person, right? No matter what you whether you think he's good,
that's how he comes across.
whether you think he's good or bad or whatever, but it does.
Never
And this is the theme that I continue to think about with this team is like, how are they convincing themselves that they have the ability to do it when they just haven't been able to prove to themselves in any amount of time that they've been able to do it? I mean, no one on this roster besides Boswell and Hayward have even won a playoff game on the Steelers. I mean,
that's the problem, and that's what I've noticed. I know
Russell Wilson has.
well,
Yeah, well, I didn't
not on the
technically.
Steelers though.
Not on the Steelers, though. But, like, I don't know. That's the thing about this team is, like, and I always kind of, like, ponder that nowadays where, like, if you're a rookie or you're a second-year, third-year player, like, how are you confident listening to a man tell you how to win in the postseason who doesn't win in the postseason, or at least hasn't in quite some time? How do you take? I don't know, man.
I don't think
like,
a young. I don't. I don't question that with young guys because I think that, you know, the way you carry yourself and the way you project yourself can be, you know, captivating, and Tomlin certainly is. And I'm not going to say that like a 22-year-old isn't going to listen to that guy and be like, because I mean, I'm 35 and I'm not a professional athlete, and I listen to him talk and I'm like, hell yeah, let's go, man. Like, it doesn't mean that the X's and O's and plans and everything are perfect to go along with it. But I don't think he doesn't have that ability. I just think it's a matter of like, I wonder if his confidence would be shaken if it happens again. Because if it happens again, it does feel like we're reaching a boiling point here of like, okay, well, what's the answer? Because it's been year after year after year after year of this at this point. You know, it's just getting to be a longer and longer window of time. I don't know, man.
That
Marv
the
Lewis
Steelers
era.
don't have anymore. The Steelers don't have that luxury of time anymore.
They
All
don't.
of your all-pro players like TJ and everybody else are getting old, and none of them have any playoff experience. And what happened to TJ's brother? He went to go play for a contender. I mean, he didn't really win anything, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
he still
Contender's
had
a little bit of a stretch.
Okay,
Yeah.
but he still tried to get a ring.
He
You
tried
know
to
what
go
I
to
mean?
a
I think he
contender, it just
tried to
didn't work.
sign. I
Right.
think he tried to sign somewhere where he wanted to buy a bunch of acreage to start up a golf course
All
and
right, well, that
and
too,
play
then,
when he
okay,
retired.
whatever.
I think that's where he tried to go.
But
To be fair, yeah,
what I'm trying to say though is
yeah.
that at some point
Oh
you
yeah,
gotta weigh this out. You gotta look yourself in the mirror and go, man,
yep.
is this really what I want to continue to keep doing?
Yeah. No, if you were to ask me, I would say that I think it's very likely that TJ Watt is not going to be only a Steeler in his career. And I think people aren't going to be comfortable with that, but I think it's probably very likely like that you already wasted the best years of his career. I think just statistically from a hyper athletic position, it's very he might be a very good player for another 10 years. He very well might. Von Miller, but also
We might have seen his best.
yeah, usually those most dynamic years where you get 22 sacks, that's usually when you're 27, 28, 26 in sports,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean he's not going to be, getting 10, 11, 12 sacks every year, but does he have another 22 and a half in him? I don't know. I know it's not comfortable for anybody to talk about, but like, did you feel like TJ looked as good this year as he did the last couple of years that he played full years?
Nope.
I thought he was still good. I thought he was still really good. And when he gets to the ball, he makes stuff happen. He turns it over and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of like the frequency, did it feel like it was happening quite as often this year as maybe it did in
Well,
Everything felt
Let me-
more effective against him.
let me say this though too.
he's been hurt the last month, to be fair.
Well, not only that, but Alex Highsmith missed five games,
True.
right? And when you only got one guy on the one side,
But you're not just a guy. You're TJ Watt.
I get it. But what I'm saying is that contributed to why TJ's game wasn't quite the way it was.
Yeah.
I also think that there was a lot of other parts that contributed to why this defense was well. I think
Meh.
they broke a lot more than they bent. Okay, if you want to be honest with you. When you allow a Dallas Cowboy team to just march right down the field and win the game, when you allow the Cleveland Browns to just run all up and down the field all over you, when you can't go, I have a hard time with that.
I hear that, but I have in aggregate, like after the totality of this year, like usual, I have less frustration with the defense than I do the offense. I do. I mean, yeah, that those two examples of that Colts and the Cowboys
That's nothing
game,
new, though.
the Colts and Cowboys game back to back. Yeah, I agree. Those were really bad performances. But like for the most part, honestly, I felt like the defense did their job more or less this season. And when stuff got really bad, it was because the offense reverted to Matt Canada era efficiency and they were scoring 13. You can't go into a game against the Philadelphia Eagles in Philly and score 13 points. You are not going to have a chance. And it doesn't matter what the final score is that they put up because they could put up 19 and it wouldn't matter because you only scored 13. It's not real.
I get what you're saying, but my point though I think is this: you talk about how having a team that plays zone, right, which is what the Steelers do, but yet they got all their defenders are man-to-man specialists.
Yeah.
So when you got man-to-man specialists that play zone, then you're going to have the kind of defense that we have. If they were
Square
playing
peg round hole has been a problem with us for a long time.
That is true.
If you play, look, you drafted Joey Porter Jr. to be a shutdown cornerback, and that's exactly what he is, but you're not allowing him to do that. You traded away your first round pick to get Minka Fitzpatrick, a ball hawk, and you're not letting him do it.
You play him like the Dolphins did.
It's fascinating what happened there, right? Isn't it? Because that's what everybody heard about him, and then it's kind of what happened. And the Minka thing to me is really bizarre, because I don't know, I was willing the first half of the season, people that watch film and work at Steelers Depot were telling me stuff like Minka was still good. And, I was saying, okay, it's fine. These people know more about X's and O's, and he's shutting down stuff that I'm not looking at because I'm just watching it on TV and then rewinding it 15 times and then writing a joke about it and then saying it and putting it together. So, like, what do I know, right?
And now you understand why I record the games right?
But then the season went on, it just became so weird. And it was apparent. I mean, there were many times where somebody scored a touchdown, like as Minka's like just defeatedly jogging towards them from the wrong position. And it just felt like it was happening over and over again. And I wonder if it's a scheme thing. I wonder if it's him messing up. I don't know what it is, but the fact that Minka has made exactly like one memorable play in the last 2 years is becoming increasingly shocking.
After having your entire defensive scheme centered around 3-4 and cover 3 for the last century, and having your entire defensive scheme, like having your players all be kind of 3-4, and you get what I'm saying here. Why, after all that, though, and bringing in a guy like Minka Fitzpatrick, who is a reckless center fielder that thrives in a cover 3 kind of a shell, why on earth do you then hire Terrell Austin, a cover 2 guy, to be your DC? It just doesn't make any sense to me, and you can see how fucking annoyed Minka Fitzpatrick's getting on the field because he doesn't get to play, like, basically the whole time. He's just sitting 20 yards back away from it. So when you see him take bad angles in the run game, like, yeah, I'm sure he doesn't look as good as he normally does, but I mean, the fact that when teams pick on him maybe once a game, and it's when he's in a bad spot, it doesn't seem like he gets many chances to actually play now, and I think scheme plays a huge part in that.
Yeah. Interesting. I think that's a really good observation. And like, the thing that jumps out to me just looking at this, like looking at his year by year stats in 2019, when he had 5 interceptions and 96-yard pick 6, we all remember when Minka first showed
Rampage.
up. He only had 69 tackles that whole year. 2020 he had 79 tackles, still 4 interceptions, and then going into 2021 he had 124 tackles, then he had 96, then he missed a few games, he had 64, and then this year he had 96. So, like, to your point, Gage, like, why is Minka Fitzpatrick being asked to be a middle linebacker? Like, why would he ever have? Did Ed Reed ever have 100 tackles in a season? I'm sure he probably didn't, right?
I don't think so. They turned him from Troy Polamalu to Jamal Adams. You know what I'm saying? I'm just not a fan of that. Not a fan of that switch. I mean, like, I remember Brett Coleman talking about what a perfect fit he was for our defense whenever Minka first got to the Berg, and it was because we need a Troy Polamalu. We need some kind of reckless center fielder who's going to disrupt plays. And I loved that for a long time. To Keith Butler's credit, I can't believe I'm complimenting that friggin' dinosaur. God bless him. But like when they were saying, hey, Minka, stand back and just walk forward when the play starts. They're like, just be you. You saw how fruitful that relationship was. Why are we doing the exact opposite? I couldn't tell you.
You know something? Ed Reed had his first 3 years, he had 85, 71, and 78 tackles. And then the entire rest of his career, he never had more than 60. Does that tell you something about what's going on here with Minka Fitzpatrick? Why is he the strong safety? Why is he tackling so many times? Why is that his game? Why?
The run game.
It's bad.
And Ed Reed's in the Hall of Fame last I checked.
Yeah, he was pretty darn good. Pretty darn good.
But
He
when
wasn't as
you're-
good as Troy. I'll die on that hill.
Oh, I will too.
Just different players.
I-
Just different players.
But if I had to choose between the two, I would be taking Troy all day.
Apples and oranges depends on who you're playing. It's so that's one of those.
Miles
I'm not
Garrett.
gonna.
As always.
Ed Reed,
always.
Ed Reed had 64 interceptions. All right, come on. The guy had multiple years 9, 7, 7, 9, 8. I'm never taking. I don't care what team he played for. I'm not taking anything away from Ed Reed. You know what I mean?
Ed Reed
Who
was a
gets
system safety.
Who gets nine?
no.
Who gets 9 interceptions? Come on, he did it like 3
I know,
times.
Right? I wasn't trying to take anything away from Mr. Reed, because you notice I'm saying it with respect, Mr. Reed.
Oh my god.
You know what I mean?
All
I'm
right.
not. All I'm just saying is that I would have taken Troy all day.
All right, so let's see. We don't think there's any chance that the Steelers are gonna win, do we?
We don't think there's any chance. And all right,
Do you feel more?
I will be positive.
Okay.
I'm going to go with a 25% chance that we win this game.
Wow. Okay. Well, because you think the defense is gonna show up.
Well, no, I don't, but I think that that would be our path.
Okay. Okay.
Not to nitpick what you're saying.
No,
but
I mean they
yeah.
definitely. I mean they definitely could win. I'm not saying I would be like, floored. I think there's a realistic chance that they could come out and fix their woes and all that. But
It's a divisional game.
Yeah, anything can happen. But I think it's going to be tough, and I think it's going to be one of two things. It's going to be one of two things because we've seen these two games so many times in the last 5 years. It's either going to be a knockdown, drag out, slobber knocker, and the Steelers are going to pull it off because they're down by 2 points at the end, and they get a field goal, and they win, 19-17 or something like that, or it's going to be the same playoff game we've seen for the last half decade, and Lamar's,
31-12.
and it's going to be 28-13 at half,
Yeah.
and you're gonna be like, oh, maybe, and then there'll be like 1 point where they get it to like 9, and you're like, oh, like maybe, and and then it's just not gonna happen, and it's
And
gonna
Tomlin's
be.
going to punt on a 4th and 1 from midfield, and then they'll go right down the field and score.
I mean, the reality is that's the most likely bet, right?
Those are the only two outcomes. Those
Yeah.
are the only two.
Yeah.
I think the best prop bet that you can possibly have in this whole game, and I'm not a betting person, and I don't do it, I don't follow it or anything like that, but my best prop bet is $100 on the first plays from the Pittsburgh Steelers is 3.5.
yeah, that's about as likely
Want some
as
I
guaranteed
could probably
money.
make $1 million on that prop bet, right?
That is the truth.
Not that I'm trying to promote that or anything, because I really am not.
But you both
confused.
do think though that you neither of you think that they're going to come out with a more aggressive game plan, huh?
No.
You really
Did we come
don't.
out with a more aggressive game plan against the Bills? Did we come out with a more aggressive game plan versus the Browns? Did we come out with a more aggressive game plan versus the Chiefs? Did we come out with a more aggressive game plan versus the Jaguars?
I just don't know how they couldn't feel it. I just don't know how they couldn't feel that it needs more.
Can I just throw something at you? I don't feel that, or maybe I don't know, maybe I'm watching the wrong games, I guess. I always felt like Cowher was able to turn it up and be aggressive when it was called for.
Yeah.
But I don't see the same kind of
Evolution.
outcomes from Tomlin. Like when he's supposed to ratchet up, he's conservative and run one pass. And when he's not supposed to ratchet up, he's throwing the ball all over the place.
He did. Yeah, he did. I agree with that in general, but he did have the confidence to do that back in the days of Ben and Antonio, circa like 16.
We don't got that no more.
I know, 15, 16, 17. He had the guts to kind of do that. Remember that year where he went for 2 all the time? That was awesome. I love that,
And
clearly.
he was good, and they were good at it, man, because
Yeah.
they were, hey.
More teams should do that. It's the biggest
agree.
proposition in the sport. It could be like the 3-pointer in the NFL if teams ever tried it. I don't know why they don't, but
I would like to see more.
Wait, don't try what?
just going for
The
2
2-pointer.
every time.
Oh yeah. Well, we can see Dan Campbell. Like
Yeah.
he's going for it on 4th down more than he was
Yeah.
going for 2. But he's a perfect example of, like he said, I want my players to have zero fear come big moments and going for it on 4th down. I get it.
I guess you
I get it.
probably feel at some point like you only have so many plays you can come up with from the 2, and like maybe that's it,
Yeah.
right? Like you want to keep something to yourself, like so you need it. I don't know.
No, the Steelers
kind of
don't have that
agreed.
luxury right now.
Oh.
I've kind of agreed with Tomlin's philosophy as of late, where he says sometimes if you can't get 1 yard on a 4th and 1, you don't deserve to win.
Yeah, but Gage, sometimes
you
the
can-
problem is they just do it the same way every time, though.
That's true.
The Chiefs don't just hand it off to the running back up the gut every time on 4th and 1. Sometimes the quarterback rolls out and throws the ball to a wide receiver who catches it and then runs in wide open space. Like, you know what I mean? Like, have some guts.
that?
Have some
that?
guts. Like, geez, I don't know. If I'm look at honestly, in totality, I am going to end up being depressed about the Steelers at the end of this season, no matter what happens this weekend. If they win, I'll feel a little bit better, maybe. But I think that the thing is just at the end of the day, I don't know. I feel worse. And I don't even know the outcome of the playoff game yet. I think I feel worse about this collapse than I did in 2020. I really did.
it's not even
And
close.
2020 hurt for a long time because you were like, man, that was so much fun and whatever.
Well,
then losing the
look at how
Browns
they
sucked
started.
and all that. But like, at least that just was fun. And this just so fast went from like, I believe to, and it just feels
really-
so defeating.
It really is a lot worse than 2020, in my opinion. I think a lot of us kind of knew. You and I were on the show. We were talking about it in 2020, being like, enjoy it while we have it,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
what goes up must come down. I think we all kind of knew we were playing with fool's gold a little bit. Maybe not fool's gold, but we were just willing to see how far
Yeah.
that 11-0 stretch was going to take us. This was, hey, we're 10-3. We have faults, but we got a lot of strengths, and we're a tough team to face. And then the second we got
And
the
we made
does
the
anybody-
playoffs. Because as soon as we got to 10-3, and they said, "Yeah, we made the playoffs," and then that was it. The tires fell off.
Does anybody know that meme of the boxer that as soon as the fight starts, he just walks right out of the ring? I said that's Tomlin when he gets to 10 wins.
Yeah. No, it is.
Okay,
It's-
I'm done.
Yeah, it's
I
tough.
like what one of the. I like what one of the.
I'm a head out.
But listen, all right. If sports, if there's one thing I've learned, the narrative changes rapidly. Okay?
The present moment is all we have.
We could forget about everything that happened in the last month if the Pittsburgh Steelers come out and beat their hated rival, the Baltimore Ravens, in their house. I mean, imagine how great that would be, right? Just for a second, allow yourself to live in a reality where that happens, and it's okay. Suddenly, then it's like, all right, where can we go from there? We just beat the Ravens. Like, at least we got that going for us, and who knows, man? Maybe somebody upsets somebody, and who knows? Yeah, but
We're
it can,
starting off 0-0.
yeah, you can change the narrative really rapidly.
Second season, all you need is a ticket to the dance.
We have beaten the Baltimore Ravens a bush number of times the last little while. But on top of that, outside of the Texans, I really don't think that there's a team I'd rather face in the first round of the playoffs than Baltimore.
Yeah, I would have rather.
If anyone's going to take them down in the early rounds, it'd be us. If they go against the Texans or, I don't know, any other team in the first round, no, they're going to win. But I think we're the one team that can upset them in the first round.
Yeah, because I have a buddy of mine that's a big Bills fan, and the first thing he told me is like, "Man, I'm glad you guys are playing the Bills." or
Yeah.
the Ravens.
Yeah.
Because he said that if the Ravens were going to be playing the Bills, he said, man, that was not going to be pretty.
Yeah.
And I said, well, thanks, because I really would have, even if we were to go in there and beat Baltimore, I don't know if we could go into Kansas City again or go up to Buffalo and pull that game off. I just don't know if we could.
That would be this. Yeah. If the Steelers went and beat one after the other, like for the people that are like, oh, well, you know, the last time we were the 6th seed, we beat Carson Palmer and Peyton Manning and you know, okay, and Jake Plummer, by the way.
Yeah.
He had a good year.
I know, but Jake Plummer, okay. And you know, and you had Ben Roethlisberger. The likelihood of 36-year-old Russell Wilson in the winter going out and beating one after the other in their house, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. It's just not that's not happening.
Okay, but if they do that,
yeah, if they do that, it'd be the greatest postseason run in the history of the NFL. And I'll tell you that right now to your face, it would be the greatest run in history, and that would be amazing. And I would probably be a millionaire because this show would shoot up to 100,000 subscribers. But
it would rival the Big Dick Nick Eagles run from 2017.
I'll tell you, I'll file that under absolutely not fucking ever going to happen. So don't even think about it.
We'd be like a gold boat.
You got about as good of a chance as Bill Belichick being the head coach here next year. Never, ever, 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 ever gonna happen. But if it did, it would be dope as hell.
We'll take it.
It'd be dope as hell.
That means you'd have to do 3 more shows then.
Hey. All right, get the super chats going, get that Patreon jack up through the roof. I'm not saying I don't. That's the thing. I have a vested interest. I make more money if the Steelers win. Like I'm happy.
Hello?
I'm happy.
Come on.
But if I had to bet my 401k, this is probably the last stream we're doing this year.
I wouldn't put that much up. Oh my gosh, no. You kidding?
I'm just saying if I had to. I'm saying if somebody was like, you know, you got to bet your 401k, which one are you taking?
Kansas City.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that we would have, like, I don't know, we were talking about the head coaching thing earlier, and I wanted to see, like, I wanted Brian Flores to be here. I would have loved for Brian Flores to be, like, especially because Brian Flores is pretty much the exact opposite of Mike T in terms of coaching style. Like, he seems to have a very divisive players either love playing for Flores or they absolutely despise it. You're seeing that with the Vikings. You also saw that with Washington with what's his name, with Eric Bieniemy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it wouldn't. But it wouldn't fix the Minka problem.
No,
that would not fix the Minka problem.
But you know what would fix the problem?
What's that?
Going over to patreon.com.
Yes. I love it. Patreon.com/5SMU. $4 gets you into the Discord server. And I will say, you know, honestly, it's not even a pitch. You know, it's whatever. I don't make $1 million off of this thing, but it's worth it. I think the Discord server really is. It's a lot of fun. Everybody's talking. Even in the off season, we talk about basketball, we talk about baseball, whatever. I mean. So yeah, if you like the show and you want there to be a season 7, drop $5 in the jar and, you know, help us out, you know, keep the subscriptions going and all that kind of stuff.
But what are you up to now, man? Are you looks like you're approaching 21,000.
Oh, subscribers? Yeah, pretty close. Yeah, it's
man,
it was a solid growth year. You know, I mean, just kind of, you know, stacking the hotcakes a little bit. Not an outrageously good year, but I think it just speaks to the Steelers fan mindset. Honestly, I think Steelers fans in general are just very. I think we're really being beaten to the point of apathy. A lot of us, you know. I don't know about you guys. I hate to get esoteric on the last stream of the year, but we're 2 hours in, so, you know, screw it. Like I find I find myself sometimes just being like, I'm just like more interested in like what the Knicks are doing, and like I hate it. I don't want the Steelers. At one point were the most important like sports thing by far in my life, but it's just like it is growing just tiresome watching the same finale every single year, and it's just, it sucks, man, because I'm getting, I'm not old, but like it'd be nice to be like watching like a playoff game, with my friends or my niece and nephew. Those are the memories I remember growing up, and it's just so long now where every time there's a big game, it's bad and we lose.
Now throw my age into it.
Yeah.
Now, and I've gone this long without. I mean, the last real team that I got to see do anything was the one from 2010 where we won.
And you've been watching since that year they were the Steagles, right?
No, I have not been watching them since 1933. That would make me almost
No,
100.
the Steagles were in like 1943. That was like when World War II happened. They joined with the Eagle. Yeah.
Right.
No, you started in 49, I think, if I remember.
Yeah, right. No, that's the year I was born. No, see,
listen.
The first time I ever watched the Steelers, I was 5 years old. I had just turned, or not too far from there, and the Steelers were playing the Vikings in Super Bowl IX.
Oh, nice.
And my grandfather reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 shiny quarters. And back in the day, right, we're talking 74, 75, right? You had the big Curtis Mathis TV that was the floor model.
Yeah.
It was made out of wood, right? It weighed like 6,000 pounds or whatever,
Yeah.
right? So he laid those quarters on the table there, and he said, all right, now you get 2 quarters and we'll pick a team. So I ran to my mom and I said, Mom, can I have 2 quarters? And she's like, here you go. So I put my 2 quarters down there and he said, now you pick a team. And I said, all right, I want the black and gold team. And he said, all right, I'll take the purple and white team. The black and gold team won, and I have been a fan ever since.
That's perfect. Okay. I didn't know that origin story. Cause see, I never had an option really. I just kind of was, a Steelers fan before.
I wasn't influenced by my dad.
Yeah, no, I didn't have an option at all.
Yeah, no, I wasn't influenced by my dad or any other family members because of all of my family members, I'm really the only one that is totally into the sports. And
interesting. My whole family is so diehard sports people.
Well, so now I converted my mom.
Yeah.
Right, but you know how you convert your loved ones? You take them to games.
Yeah.
Well, my mom, when I was a kid and I was playing football, our team won state championships 2 years in a row. Our coach was the sports writer for Penn State.
Oh,
so.
Nice.
As the sports writer for Penn State, he was like, hey, guys, come on, we're going to go up to Penn State. We won the championship. We go up to Penn State. We meet Joe Paterno, Todd Blackledge, Kurt Warner. He has a speech in front of us, our whole team, right? All of our team. Joe Pa gets up and speaks 2 years in a row.
Yeah,
right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm a Penn State fan.
No, hell yeah. Gage, what's your sorry, I just want to keep it on Steelers real quick because we're winding down. Gage, what's your first Steeler game you remember watching? Do you have a specific?
Yeah. So my mom and my stepdad are who got me into it. And to this day, like my whole family are just nothing but Steeler fans. And it was never really like I mean, we like the Pens and the Pirates and all that, but it was always a Steelers household. And first Steeler game I remember Amos Zaraway breaking a run down one of the sidelines against the Raiders, and I think it was 2000. But that's literally I think the first memory of life I have is watching the Steelers.
Really?
So yeah, I'm not even kidding. That's it. I got indoctrinated early on, man. But then the first season I ever I couldn't have even been 3, I don't think. 2, 3, 4.
There you go.
Yeah.
You were even younger than me.
Yeah.
The first season that I ever actually watched and was able to kind of keep track of what was going on was the 15-1 Ben's rookie year.
24. Yeah, 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my version of that is definitely Super Bowl 30 against the Cowboys. Like that's like one of the earliest. I mean, well, I was 6.
Brutal.
I think I had just turned 6 when that happened. So like that's like, Steelers and Cowboys, and like that was, big thing. And so I remember that. It's not my first memory of anything though. The first I've told this, I think I don't know if I've told this story on stream before, but the first like memory I have of like consuming content was like a real-time event was OJ Simpson police chase. Like that happened when I was like 4, I think. And like the way that like people of like a certain generation talk about like the moon landing, that's like my like the Bronco, the white Bronco. That's like I remember being there and being like with my uncles and my grandparents' living room and stuff, and being like, I'm not sure I understand why this is a big deal, but this feels like a big deal.
I had that exact same thing. I had that exact same thing happen to me, but it was in 2001.
Oh, it was 9/11. Yeah,
I'll leave the rest up to you.
I remember that. I mean, I was 6th grade, so that was more. Yeah,
where were you when this happened?
See, this is what happens when we go 2 hours on the stream. We start talking about 9/11. Okay, come on, enough. This is what Steelers football does to you. It's insane.
To this day, I refuse. To this day, I refuse to watch highlights from Super Bowl 30 or watch anything about it or have anything to do with it.
Yeah, Super Bowl. 45 hurts me more.
Yeah,
30. They
just
just weren't as good as the Cowboys. I mean, they just weren't.
That year. That was the year. That was the redemption year from the 3 more yards.
Yeah.
Because the previous year they lost to the Chargers by 3 yards.
The 94. I know the 94 Steelers are the biggest missed opportunity. They should have won the Super Bowl, definitely.
And then you come back in 95 and you get to the AFC Championship game and you beat the Colts.
Yeah.
You raise the Lamar Hunt trophy up over your head. I'm balling, sitting in stadiums right there with you. And then you go and throw that game away to Neil O'Donnell and the Cowboys in Super Bowl 30. It was like,
all I know is for most of my life, the Steelers went to the AFC Championship game in, excuse me, 1994, 1995, 1997, 2001, 2004, 2005, 2008, 2010, 2011,
17.
2016, and 15. That's it. And I just want to get back to that, I mean, I'm not even like somebody who's like, oh, I was somebody who I always thought everybody gave Cowher shit for the AFC Championship game because he lost a handful of them. And I always felt, even when I was younger, and I feel that way now, that like consistently getting to the conference championship game in the NFL is no small feat. And if you get even a Super Bowl or 2 out of that, you're a Hall of Fame coach, because that's exactly what Bill Cowher was. So, not everybody needs to be Bill Belichick and win 15 Super Bowls, okay? Like, and I think that was like a really respectable thing. And now it's been so long, and I just want to get back there. I'm okay not winning the Super Bowl every year. I can acknowledge Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are what they are. But I just want to have a chance, man. I want to be able to, be 2 steps or, 1 step removed from the Super Bowl. Is that crazy?
I just want 5 seconds of our season to actually matter in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Because when it all boils down, right? When it all boils down, all you get is the length of Steve's show.
I mean, that's the thing.
That's all that's played.
That's the most important part of the Steelers season. We get 5-star matchups.
I just want to do I just want to do a playoff win, guys. I'm telling you, I'm being honest. Like I just need it. Like I need to do 1. Like let me get 1 before I get run over by a school bus. Like every year this goes on, I have an increasingly high chance of getting run over by a school bus, you know?
Why that specifically? That's a very
It's just,
specific.
it's just how I'm probably gonna go. A psychic medium told me one time, and I've been terrified of school bus. That's like that's why I'm wearing the Bettis jersey. It's like a reverse psychology thing, you know? I'm not embrace the bus.
You know, the wheels go round and round.
No,
Or are you manifesting?
That's just that's my go-to example of, random surprise. I like the idea of just because that's what it's like watching the Steelers every week.
Can we please do that? Can I just say something to you guys?
First and 10, second and 9, fourth and 1.
Fourth and 1. Fourth and 1. Fourth and 12. From your own 30.
All right.
What's the matter with you?
All right. We gotta get out of here. We gotta get out of here. We're getting too wild.
I just want to say something though.
Say it.
Thank you guys very much for including me and having me part of this.
Thank you, pal.
Of course.
No,
yeah.
man. This you have no idea what this means to be able to sit down and talk with you guys and jaw with you guys and be part of this great community with all the folks out there at patreon.com/5SMU, $4 or $7. But just being part of this, being part of what you guys are doing, and with everything that Frame's done, all the great stuff that he does, all the great stuff that Gage does, all the great stuff that you do, Steve, man, look, it's a 5-star matchup because all y'all are in it. Okay? So I just wanted to say that, and I just wanted to say thank you very much for having me be a part of this. So thank you.
Listen, we appreciate you,
pal.
and you're a part of this thing, and have been for years now too. And yeah, I mean, obviously, you guys both know that the feeling is mutual, and it's been a blast, even when the Steelers collapse like they always do. But hey, one of these days we're gonna win a playoff game, and maybe it'll be the day after tomorrow. We'll see. Who knows?
Very possible.
That'd be great. I got a whole Sunday to edit the show. Let's go. Put me
You know what I mean?
Put me to work. Put me to work. All right, Gage, what do you want to leave the people with, huh?
Yeah, man. I mean, I've enjoyed this year. I've had a great time. I know that there's been ups and downs like there are with every year, especially with the Steelers. But I mean, I always love coming back to do 5-star, man. If this turns out to be the last stream of the season and whatnot, this is kind of the last note that we leave it off of. I feel pretty good, and I really enjoyed this year. I enjoy every year, and hell, if it goes for 30 more years, I'll be here. 30 years from now, complaining about Archie Manning's down alone child.
Yes.
And about how he's just not as good as Ben Roethlisberger. And I remember when there was real good quarterback play in the Berg.
No, that's gonna be
your beard will just be a little grayer, man.
That's gonna be
it'll be great.
You and I sitting in the rocking chairs on the front porch with the like a piece of straw coming out of our mouths and just spitting into jugs, talking about Ben Roethlisberger and how good he was and how much of a jerk he was. And
sharing war stories about Ben Roethlisberger in the early 2000s bar scene.
Yep. Remember the time Tomlin made him play with the sprained ankle against the 49ers and he was terrible? Yeah.
You remember when he came off the bench and because Landry Jones got injured the first game?
Remember Christmas Day against the Ravens when they were beat them by Barbadere and Antonio Brown?
Listen, at times when it's been...
Remember when Kenny Pickett had the perfect preseason?
Don't remind me. Don't remind me.
The same things for 50 years. Yeah.
I can't wait. And listen, at times when it hasn't been so easy to be a Steeler fan, the 5-star community and being able to be a part of this awesome, still growing channel and ever-present channel. It's become kind of a backbone of my Steeler fandom in a lot of ways. So thank you guys. Thank you to 5-star Nation, as I like to say. And if this is the last time for this year, then I've enjoyed it.
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
man.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I trailed off, but there we go.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, I want to echo everything the guys said, but if you watched our content this year, we appreciate you. Like, that's what we do. We just try to entertain people, and I'm really proud of what we've grown, and I'm really proud of our community. I think we have the most miraculously non-toxic sports community that there is on the internet, and I think
That's hard.
that in itself is an extremely positive thing for for the internet, and I'm so proud of that. Our Discord server, I just think, is so cool. And sometimes people get annoyed with each other and stuff during games or after games, but for the most part, we're all pretty civil. No one really gets banned. There's not a lot of jerks. It's pretty cool. And yeah, I would encourage you to, support the show. Join over patreon.com/5SMU. But hey, keep an eye out. Maybe we'll be back next week with a little bit more content. Who knows? Let's see what happens. Anything can happen, right? Into Baltimore. I'm going to go ahead and give you Here We